Welcome to video 2 for lesson 2-4. We're going to continue looking at solving by elimination. Now, unfortunately, not every problem is going to work out quite as easily for elimination as they did in the last video. Remember, in the last video when we were adding our equations, we were able to cancel one variable just by adding them together. And that was possible because in each situation, we had a variable that had the same coefficient but that had opposite sides. So for example, we might have had a 3x and a negative 3x, and those would cancel. We're going to start looking at some problems where we have to do a little bit more work to make these cancel out. So if we were to look at example 3, and just to continue in the same way that we were doing in video 1, and just add them together, 6x and a negative 3x would give us a positive 3x. And then a 3y and a positive 3y would give us a positive 6y. Notice this time that we don't have a variable cancel out. We have the same number like we were looking for in front of the y, a 3 and a 3, but if you'll notice, our signs are both positive, so that means that this is not going to cancel out and work quite as nicely as before without us doing a little bit to help it out. So we can't do it that way, so we need to look at alternate possibilities. Now, we said that this both had 3's in front of the y's. Our problem was the signs. If we think back to how you change signs, you can do that simply by multiplying by a negative 1. Now remember, we talked about how what you do to one side you have to do the other, so we can't just multiply the y's by a negative, but we are going to need to multiply the whole equation. Now I could have done this with either the top or the bottom of the equation. It doesn't matter which. It just needs to happen to one of them. So I just rewrote my first equation over here, and then I'm just going to multiply the whole second equation by negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 3x gives me a positive 3x. Negative 1 times 3y is going to give me a negative 3y, and negative 1 times 9 is going to give me a negative 9. All I did is I took this negative 1 and I multiplied it through all three pieces of my equation to get a new equation. Now when I add these together, my original top equation and my new second equation, I'm going to find that I'm going to be able to cancel out. 6x and 3x is going to give us 9x. This time our y's are going to cancel out because they have the same number and opposite signs. And then 0 and negative 9 is going to give us negative 9. So I just divide both sides by 9, and I'm going to find that my x value is going to be negative 1. I just now need to take that x value and plug it into one of my two original equations. I always plug into whichever I think is going to be the easiest. You can plug it into whichever one you want. I'm just going to plug it into the top. So I'm going to do 6 times negative 1 plus 3y equals 0. 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. So we have negative 6 plus 3y equals 0. We need to add 6 to both sides. 3y equals 6, and our last step, divide everything by 3, so y is going to be 2. I need my ordered pair. My x value was negative 1 and my y was 2. So all we had to do when we had the same number in front of the variable but also the same signs, we just have to multiply one of them by a negative 1. And just like in the last example, it doesn't matter if this is the x or the y that's going to end up canceling out. It's just going to be whichever one works out for that particular problem. Alright, you guys give the two you try problems a try, and we'll see you in video 3.